Mics are on. Good afternoon and welcome to today's special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for June 29, 2017. Can I have a call to order at 12 o'clock and pledge allegiance? Can I have Supervisor Rivas lead us off, please?
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Rivas. Acknowledge the certificate of posting.
So move.
The second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 5-0. We will now go to closed session. County Council.
It's going to be a closed session conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 and E2 of Government Code Section 54956.9. Number of cases, 1, facts and circumstances justifying the closed session, receipt of the bid protests related to the jail expansion project, and the receipt of the response letter from Dalen Wyment, Esquire, on behalf of the Slayton Construction Company. And if the chair could ask if there's any public comment related to this.
Thank you. Any public comments from the public? Okay, well, we'll go to. We do?
Is it a
But
non-intrusive?
I don't know that they put it for 1, 2, and 3, so yeah. Carter?
Come up to the podium, please.
Yeah. Is it related to the closed session?
I just want to say I'm Dane Carter from Slayton Construction, Senior Vice President, and we're just here for any questions or anything that comes out of the closed session, and we're just happy to be here and excited to have the opportunity.
Let's keep that for back there. Thank you. So let's just keep them.
Okay.
All right, we will go to closed session now. Okay, County Council?
There was no reportable action.
Thank you. Then we'll go back to regular agenda. Just for the public, we're going to remove item number 1 and item number 3 off today's agenda, and we'll only discuss item number 2 for the special meeting. CEO, number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Today, obviously, we've been discussing the jail expansion project for the last, 3 days, I guess, this week with your board. Today, we're at decision day, so I've asked Louis Valdez, our management analyst, to go ahead and give you a quick presentation of different options that your board may take with potentially moving forward with the project or not. So, Louis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have in front of you a printout of the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to provide. I'll go ahead and start the PowerPoint with a summary of the discussion points detailing the 4 options. I'm going to then turn it over to, after I go through option number 1, I'm going to turn it over to the County Auditor, Joe Paul Gonzalez. He'll go through a listing of some numbers that the board, I'm sure, will want to listen to, and then I'll finish off the PowerPoint, and I'll be happy to entertain questions as you go along. Okay. So discussion points, we have options 1 through 4. Option 1 is project scope change. Option 2 is project cancellation. The third one is proceed with the rebidding process. Option number 4 is proceeding with the project.
Actually, Louis.
Yes. And I know that you just indicated that items numbers 1 through 3 on the agenda would not be considered. So do you want me to
No.
simply...
Are we going to
This is a
remove
different
option
issue.
3?
No, so, excuse me, say it again.
Are we going? Option 3 is not available at the moment, right?
It's a different issue.
It's a different item, so it's a different item. So yes, we'd just like to quickly highlight that.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then Vanner Construction will be asked to make some comments. Our RMA directors will also have an opportunity to address the board, and then the board will provide us with direction and a decision. So I'm sorry about that. There is an issue here with the summary. Okay, yes. Pardon me. So option number 1, project scope change. This particular option will provide the board with an overview as follows. If the board determines that a project scope change is desirable, then the following points need to be considered by the board. Number 1, project timeline could be pushed back approximately 12 to 18 months. That number is soft depending upon market forces and other factors. The estimated costs for newly formulated project plans could increase $500 to $1 million in USD. There could be additional unidentified project costs that we are not able to determine or identify at this time. So we don't know what the amount or what the scope of those additional project costs could be. There could be increased overall project costs for bidders in the county. It takes a considerable amount of effort and time to put those bids together. It also requires a great deal of county time and resources dedicated to reviewing those new bids. And there is a possibility of the state denying a scope change request due to the competitive grant award funding process at the $15 million the county has received involved. And so for all of those reasons, option number one, the project scope change, we put those in front of you for the board to consider. County auditor, I think at this point, would like to come up, or was it option number 4?
No, it's option 4.
Option number 4, okay. So we'll go with option number 4 after the auditor, or the auditor will come up after option number 4. So this is option number 1, and those are the elements of this particular project scope change. Option number 2 is project cancellation. Should the board choose to simply say we are not going to do this project, it costs too much money across the board, then you have to consider the following factors. Obviously, you will lose the $15 million in grant award state money. There will be no recovery of sunken costs, which at this point are approximately $1.5 million. That's staff time, resources we've dedicated, legal review, technical review, all of those particular elements they cost money, and so we would not be able to recover those. The third one is we will have a loss of all county in-kind costs. So any costs that were associated with the project that the county provided in kind would be lost and not recovered. There is also, of course, the lost opportunity to improve the overall county infrastructure. A new building of this nature will obviously add value to the facilities and to the operations of the sheriff, but from an infrastructure perspective, that would be a significant loss to the overall county as a whole. And, of course, there is the risk of lack of statutory compliance with state mandates with regard to government code requirements that counties must follow in order for incarceration requirements to be met as set forth in the state code. Option number 3. Option number 3 is proceeding with the rebidding process. If a board decides that they want to reject all bids and rebid this particular project, then obviously there would be an increased project timeline. If you reject all the bids, the entire process would have to begin again. That would take a considerable amount of time. We don't know how many other people would want to continue with that participation in that timeline, and we don't know how long that would take. Conceivably, it would take much longer. There would be increased cost to the bidders, having to redo the bids, having to go through that process, and their time and effort and their consultants and their staff. Obviously, that's an increased cost to them as well, because there could be increased costs as you move forward. There's increased cost overall to the county as well. The cost of the project itself could go up. The cost of all of the consulting time and all of those fees will increase. There will be project time that will have to be dedicated to this project that will be taken away from other projects. So those will increase the overall cost. We will have no recovery of sunken staff time if we rebid this process. There will be that new dedication of time from staff again. And future project costs may exceed the currently documented, and I have an error there, my apologies, documented project costs for this project. As time goes on, it is not unreasonable to assume that the cost of the project will increase as less materials and resources are available in the marketplace for the county to take advantage of. Right now, you have them documented, you understand what and know how much those will be, and you will be able to know how much you're going to spend, but if it is rebid, you won't know that going forward until that process is completed once again. And then the fourth option is, of course, proceeding with the project. Should the Board of Supervisors decide that it is in the interest of the county to proceed with this project, we have to take a few logistical steps internally, and the board, from a policy perspective, has to make those decisions as well so that we can proceed with this project as follows. There is a requirement to cancel approximately $10 million in the general fund reserves in the fiscal year 2017-18 budget. There is, of course, board authorization that will need to occur to the county administrator's office to contract with KNN Financial to identify the most appropriate source of debt financing. We'll need to do the transfer of $1 million from our enterprise funds to defer the cost of construction management, that's Vanner. We'll need to proceed with relevant impact fee updates for debt security. We're in the process of doing that now, and so we have forwarded that information to Weldon Consultants for them to process. And we'll have to codify the board decision in the budget in all other respects by updating the schedules that are applicable to this particular project. So at this point, I think the auditor is going to come up and provide you with some information regarding financing options as follows. So, Mr. Auditor.
Chair, Board of Supervisors, Joe Paul Gonzalez, County Clerk, Auditor, and Recorder. You've seen this information before. It's simply information related to once a decision is made under option 4 to go forward, if the board so desires, we may choose to go forward and have a debt capacity study done. And then these are estimated numbers of what the county could expect to have to pay in debt service if we went out and, got a loan for $9.2 million or for 20 years. And the first option there shows that at a 3% rate, the payment would be $612,000, a little over $612,000 a year. As you know, the CCP has already committed to $250,000 of debt service. And so the county general fund would be on the hook to pay $362,275 annually for the next 20 years. Now, remember, this is in the event that we go forward with the project. We have, budgetarily, we've canceled reserves. I know that Louis showed that it was $10 million. It's actually $9 million of cancellation of reserves, because we're canceling $1 million in integrated waste to use for the total $10 million additional funding needed.
Hey, Joe, hold on a
Yes.
minute. Supervisor Munzer?
Joe Paul, so I just want to make sure everybody is aware.
Speaker.
The $3 million, the $3 million in interest, that is going to be a general fund / impact is fee. That's going to all have. That's where that money is going to be paid. Correct.
That's right.
Because the CCP is only paying the principal.
It's a non-interest.
Correct. Okay, I just want to make
Yes.
sure everybody is aware of that.
That's correct. Okay. So that's in the event that we did a 20-year loan. Let's make page down. If we did a 15-year loan, of course, the payment is accelerated and payment's higher at $752,000 a year. CCP amount stays the same, $250,000. So the general fund, with impact fees, would have to pay about $500,000 a year in debt financing for the next 15 years. But all of this is secondary to your decision to move forward with the jail, because the decision to move forward requires that you incorporate that in your budget, and that's the first item of business that you would need to deal with, would be the passage of the budget, and then once that happens, the board would direct staff to pursue a debt capacity study and pursue options for debt financing, if the board so choose to go that route. And then the board, I guess, there are certain proceedings that will need to be handled concerning, as was discussed in executive session, what those proceedings would be in order to award a bid.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Supervisor Botello?
I'll just wait till the whole presentation's over for my comments.
Okay. Is the staff done with their presentation?
No, we're almost done. Next slide, we're going to invite Vanner up. I'd like to invite both Vanner up, which will be Bob and Jerry, if possible. Jerry's fine.
Did you have a PowerPoint on here? I'm sorry. Did you have a PowerPoint? No. Okay, not at all. Jerry Avalos with Vanner Construction Management, and I'm just available here to answer any questions you may have about the project as far as design, bid and award, construction phase.
Thank you. Ray, your staff is done with the report?
Yeah, and we also wanted to invite RMA if you had any further comments or any.
None. Okay.
So I think more or less we're at that stage. We're at the last PowerPoint slide. basically where your board can go ahead and caucus and discuss this and then move forward with the decision for staff.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Supervisor Patello?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the detailed report of the options available to us and the potential financing. The Facilities Committee, Supervisor Medina and myself, had spent some time on this the last, I don't know, few weeks for sure, and, the last couple of days, kind of going over, and working with the staff as far as laying out the options for the whole board, and that's it in a nutshell. And I think our recommendation is hopefully the board goes ahead, moves forward with option 4, of course. I don't think we're going to have an opportunity to expand our jail and get state money for a very long time. We're in a very enviable position relative to other counties, and we're at that point where it's time to go. We got to make the decisions and move forward with the bids that are submitted. But I certainly feel that we got to commit the $10 million from reserve so we could show the state that we're go forward with this project and work towards the appropriate financing. As one supervisor, I think the longer term financing option is the direction for us to go to maintain more flexibility with our general fund, and hopefully we would be in a position on some years to maybe pay down a little bit faster, similar to what we would do with our own finances, and that way pay off those notes and maximize the CCP money a little bit better, rather than just do the minimum as we go along. But I, for one, feel that this is a great opportunity for our county to bring in some state money for a project, and we should move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Medina from the other member of the committee?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. Supervisor Rivas?
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was asked a couple of questions yesterday by a member of the public that I was not able to answer, so I'm not even sure who to direct these to. But where are we in our loan that we did for ourselves on Technology Parkway? Do we still owe ourselves money on the building on Technology Parkway?
It's paid off. It's paid off. My understanding is paid off.
It is paid off.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Because I wasn't sure where we were. Because if we were going to use that for collateral, are we going to be borrowing against the building that we're still paying off? But we're okay. Then the other question was, what is the life expectancy of this expansion? I don't know if it's ever been said. If it had, I couldn't remember. The expansion that we're approving, how long do we expect that to meet our requirements?
We're going to invite Vanner up. Vanner Construction. Go ahead, Vanner.
I mean, are we building something that we're going to outgrow in 10 years and still be paying another 10 years on it?
Based on the type of materials that you're using on this jail, which is a hard construction, you can expect anywhere to 30 to 35, even plus, in useful life for that expansion. 30 to 35?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have space for enough beds to service our population and the growth of our population for the next 30 to 35 years. Okay. Thank you. And then I guess my last comment is directed to the sheriff and his staff. In that, Sheriff, I think this board needs a commitment from you and your staff to turn and look under every rock for any source of revenue to help with jail operations, help pay down this debt, and also the renovation of the old facility. We really need that commitment from you and your staff that you will work diligently to try to bring in increased revenue for that to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You don't want to come up to the podium and, for the record, say yes?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Always an honor and a privilege to come before this board. I value our partnership together, and the last 6.5 years that we've done this together has been certainly valuable to our community and valuable to our agency. I am committed to continuing to look for opportunities to create revenue by repurposing available space that we have. And I would also commit that I would not be doing that in a bubble, that it would be a partnership with this board, and those opportunities would be evaluated together to make sure that they were beneficial to everyone.
Thank you, Thank you, Chair. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone from the public? None? Okay, I'll close it. All right, what's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to proceed with the project and direct staff for the to move forward with the budgetary considerations that need to be met to qualify the project for the state. Is that a clear enough motion, or do I need to word it differently?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I think it would be helpful to staff if the board moved to proceed with the project and directed staff as outlined in option 4 of the presentation.
Okay, I wasn't sure I needed to have all of those bullet points in there at this point in time to move forward with the project, but if that helps clarify it, I'll move to that option 4.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Patello, second by Munzer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 5-0. Make us proud, Sheriff. Okay, now we will go to
Do you want to
regular.
do public comment? No, we don't. They did.
He opened
we did
it.
the
He
whole
opened
thing.
it. He opened it for public comment.
Even the debt service capacity and everything else, too.
Yep.
We're good. Okay, so, okay, Sheriff. Thank you. Now we go to our regular.
We'll adjourn.
Let's
We'll
go
adjourn our
adjourn.
special meeting here.
That's right. Is there a
and then
motion to
we'll
adjourn special
reconvene.
meeting?
Yeah.
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Now we will proceed to our regular budget hearings
Yep,
from
reconvene.
Monday. First item will be final budget deliberations. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, actually, what we'd like to do is cover the revised schedules based on your board's decision just right now. So we would like to go ahead and invite you to look at a couple of sheets of paper there with regards to the resolutions. But we have Melinda Casillas here. She'll actually go ahead and highlight those schedules and then go ahead and we'll comment on the actual adjustment in the resolution, which is going to be version number 2 based on your decision. So with that being said, we'd like to go ahead and invite Melinda Casillas. Melinda?
Okay. Chase is handing out the new schedules based upon your decision. So the general fund is going to cancel reserves in the amount of $12.7 million. Additional financing sources will be $41 million with a total financing sources of $51 million, total financing uses of $54 million. There is also a slight change in special revenue funds.
Melinda, I'm sorry. Did you say?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You said 54 or 51?
The total financing sources
Will be
and
41,
uses
got it.
will be $54 million in the general fund.
Okay, I see. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
There is also going to be a slight change in special revenue funds and also in special revenue funds because of the road projects and the CIP projects. We adjusted those just a little bit also. And then finally, capital project funds will change to the amount of $36.7 million. On to Schedule 2. This is basically a detail of each of the funds that summarize up into Schedule 1. And so these also have changes in them. Schedule 3, I wanted to show you what the reserves will now look like with the direction that your board just gave. The general reserve revenue at this point will be approximately $2 million. PARs at $3 million, capital improvement reserves of $1.5 million, funded depreciation, $995,000. Oh, yes, and then disaster recovery, we're going to try to keep it $1 million. We're also a part of the new Monterey Bay
Community Power,
JPA. JPA, which will be approximately, we set aside money of $500,000 just in case we have to actually put up the money at the bank. But this will be an investment to the county.
Right.
And then the unassigned, again, also we will be canceling $12.7 million worth of reserves. Schedule 6 was actually 18 pages, and I didn't want to necessarily reprint the whole 18 pages, so I wanted to show you the changes. So the road fund will change from $65 million in projects to $62 million based upon the presentation by James Pulford the other day. And then the capital projects, do I have that one here? The capital projects fund will change from $31 million to $35 million. And that will also incorporate the changes that you just made. Schedule 7, the total, again, the total financing for the whole county, financing expenditures, uses will be, again, that match to Schedule 1 will be $224 million. That includes all the funds that we're budgeting for. Schedule 8, which is a detail of uses. I wanted to again show you the changes in the uses. The general fund contribution to capital outlay, instead of being $1.5 million, will now be $8.8 million. And then the change in road capital improvements will go from $65 million to $62 million. This will also, your action on Monday, I believe, will change the integrated waste fund schedule from, it will now be, we added the $995,000 for the veneer construction to come out of integrated waste, and so we've changed that schedule just a little bit also.
Melinda, hold on, Melinda.
Go ahead.
What caused the change? I'm sorry. The change to integrated waste?
To integrated waste is that we chose to use funds from integrated waste to pay the construction management from there. We originally had it budgeted in the general fund.
It was the $995 that we were discussing on Monday. Remember that? That was the, yeah. So there was just, yeah.
Right. The other question I had the other day, the board approved the that study that we're doing for the John Smith landfill, and that came out of these funds here.
The landfill?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. They're all enterprise funds.
Then we just changed some of the departmental revenue, departmental reports that you looked at on Monday. Non-departmental expenses will change so that we're able to make the contribution from the general fund to the jail project. And that will now be, instead of $4.5 million, we've changed that to be $11.7 million. Integrated waste management, again, we changed that from $1.2 million in revenue and expenditures to be a total of $2.3 million. Capital outlay, again, where the jail project resides, was changed from $32.5 million to $36.7 million.
So I'd like to add one comment. So this is a great example of when we make one change, how it has a trickle effect throughout the budget. Just one change to go ahead and move forward with the project. So this is a really good example or a case study of what happens and how, when the budget is put together, how many hours it goes into it, because when you move one thing or change one thing, it can have a trickle effect throughout the entire budget. So it's a great job, by the way, Melinda, just to show the good work that, that's gone into it and all the hard work. Thank you, Melinda.
Okay. And then also there was a slight change, and we wanted to make sure we matched with what Mr. Pulfer had on his schedules. And so again, just on the road projects, we went from $65 million to $62 million. Finally, the schedule of fixed assets, I just wanted to show you that we made those changes, and now we balance to both the capital projects, the capital outlay, the road projects. So there was a slight change in the fixed assets schedule also. And then finally, just real quickly, I wanted to show you before the changes what we had. We originally were canceling roughly $5.5 million from the general fund reserves, and we are now counseling roughly $12.5 million. And then also on Schedule 3, again, I just wanted to outline how the general reserves change a little bit. The general reserves were budgeted originally at $9.5 million, the top line, and we will now have approximately $2 million in that reserve. So I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the changes and then also show you what the total budget will be now. So the total budget for the county is now at $231.6 million. Any questions?
Supervisor Rivas.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments when we wrap up.
No problem. Supervisor Munzer, on just the schedules?
No questions.
Supervisor Patel, on the schedules? Supervisor Medina, on the schedules? Right.
And one quick comment, just a lot of these changes are, again, just to earmark the funds so we can move forward with the project. Most likely, we will probably not have to address that this fiscal year, and the following fiscal year is when we'll have some probably debt financing available and some other things that will be more concrete, but I just want to make sure the board was clear with that.
Perfect. Thank you, Melinda. This is in reference to Schedules 1 through 15 adjustments. Now we will go into final deliberations. Who wants to start first?
I'll just say a few words. I want to reiterate the fine work from administration, in particular Melinda Casillas and Christina, as well as the department heads and all the finance folks that work in the departments. Is a great budget. I mean, it was difficult. I know that not everyone received what they wanted to receive. I know that we'll have to look at additional staffing in the future and looking at other things. But I think overall, with all the different projects that are before us and all the different things that are confronted from the state and just other things, that we're dealing with regards to roads and a bunch of other things, I think we've done a pretty good job with the budget, and we hope that we'll be able to address revenue in the years to come, and be able to make the budgeting process a little bit easier. So, with that, again, I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Linda.
So, if there are any more questions, comments, we could adopt the resolution for the 17-18 fiscal year budget.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Rivas?
I always have a couple comments when it comes to the budget, and our CIO said this was a difficult budget. Hell, this was the easiest budget I've ever done. I remember my first year. Now, all due respect to our staff, I remember our first year in 2011. Remember that, Jay?
Oh, yeah.
I walk in here, first, we laid off 40% of our staff, And so, what I have is, really the points I wanted to make were about the efficiency. And so I recall, I came from government, from the county of Monterey. And I remember I had just been elected. So I here, because you're elected in the primary, you don't take office until January. And so I said, I'm going to go to my first meeting, and I'm going to be a participant and observe these budget hearings. And Monterey County had just done their budget hearings, huge budget. They got it done in a day. So I said, I'm going to go. I was like, oh, I hope I make it, because I still had to work half the day. I said, I hope I make it for San Benito's budget hearings. I get here. Not only did I make it in time, if I wanted to be here for a week after that, I could have been here to observe the budget hearings. So my first thing as an incoming supervisor is, how can a county like San Benito's budget process be 5 days in length? But Monterey County got it done in a day. And so one of the first conversations I had with the CAO at the time, Rich Inman, was we have to do something about these budget hearings. It didn't make any sense to me. And in my opinion, there was no reason why the budget had to take that long. And so what I realized was, my first request as a supervisor, I remember coming in, we had created a budget committee that lasted a couple years. And we met, with department heads. But the primary concern that the budget committee had, I remember as myself and Supervisor Barrios, was doing something about the inefficient budget hearing process, this hearing of the process that we had. And so, after I sat down and I thought about my request, it wasn't unrealistic, it wasn't extraordinary, but what I now know is it required a change in our county culture. It required a change from staff. It required a change from us board members. There's a common saying in San Benito County, we do it this way because we always have done it this way. And so, and I tell you that this budget hearing, Ray, I know government moves slow. I made this request in 2011, but this was the best budget hearing process I'd ever been a part of. That change, although we have a long way to go to change other areas in our government here in San Benito County, but this is a huge step. These budget hearings, the process, the amount of effort that's put in by staff is leaps and bounds on where we were in 2011, which shows that our staff is moving this county government in the right direction. And that's something I'm very proud of. And so it certainly has met my goals and expectations. And so I want to thank staff. I want to thank Ray, Joe Paul, everyone that was involved, because this is a good sign for things to come, whether it's budget related, whether if it's just, some policies down the way. So this is very encouraging. And I'm very pleased with the way that this process unveiled. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Rios, for your kind words. Supervisor Patello?
Okay. Yes, I want to again thank Ray and all the staff for the hard work putting this budget together. And as Supervisor Rivas pointed out, this was a pleasure. The other day, I was up in the elections office taking care of some business, and the staff there said, "Oh, you must be exhausted. Budget hearings." I said, not really. It was a long meeting on Monday, today, but all in all, I'm refreshed. And the reason for that is because I left the meeting, the budget meeting, knowing exactly where we're at, whereas, in past budgets, it was a guess. Even after a week of deliberations, we didn't know. And I feel we could give a lot of credit to our staff for implementing changes and technology that allows us to kind of have a better snapshot where we are today. I mentioned this before. I think I view the beginning of the budget year as our new year going forward. And there's a lot of areas that I kind of want to, point out that we're embarking on coming into this year. Our homeless center is be up and running before the start of the new year. We had a deliberations on the jail. We're break ground on the jail. There's some real construction going on there. The projects is a long list. There's a lot of changes occurring in this county. Yesterday, I paid a visit to the public health facility, our public health department, and they're moving out to Tres Pinas Road, and we'll have that done, and that's to be a little bit more professional area for them to work in, and hopefully the public takes advantage a lot more. And so there's some big changes in working within this budget that we're going to see. And it's a dedication of our staff and working hard, and us hopefully supporting the way we're supposed to support and provide services. But it's big things and small things I'm very grateful for. I talked to the road department this morning. They got a sign up, no trucks going up San Juan Canyon. It's those things, too, that really, really make a difference as far as the perception of, county government. And certainly I'm going to take the opportunity to thank everybody, and job well done. Let's go get them 2017 and 18.
Supervisor Medina.
A man of many words. Great job.
Thank you. Supervisor Munzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, too, just want to thank staff. I know I saw Melinda, I think it was Monday afternoon. She was dragging herself to her car to go home, and I just thank her for the hard work that both her and Christina had done. And it makes our job so much easier by your hard work, and we really appreciate that. Appreciate all the staff working through this process. The jail kind of threw a curve in the whole budget process, and again, staff stepped up to the plate, worked through that, gave us directions that we can go forward on, and I just really appreciate it. And I think, as Supervisor Rivas said, we are definitely headed in the right direction. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My comments is I'm very humble and appreciated the effort that Ray and staff, Melinda, everyone did. And especially the comments what Supervisor Rivas said about having those 5 days budget hearings. In fact, there was one year we actually had a meet for a 6th day on a Monday. It got that contentious and that hot. I would schedule my 5 days of vacation from my private work to do the budget hearings. That was my vacation every year. And today I could actually take a vacation, which I'm about to take, because now I have 3 days vacation, because I don't schedule 5 days. I only schedule 1 day. I really want to thank Ray and the staff for doing a good job, because I will visit department heads and no one will complain about the requested budget that they wanted. They said it was fair, they wouldn't get what they want, but there was never bad remark about staff. That's an indication that you will listen to them, but sometimes they want something else, but at least you listen to them, and they appreciate that. Not even the rank and file will be complaining. We probably know why, because negotiations is about to start. But the bottom line is it's a reflection of the culture that we instill, and it starts the budget. We always have a mission statement out there, but we never have the tools to back up the mission statement, but the budget allows that to back it up. So I really want to thank that. I really want to thank Melinda for the Saturdays and Sundays that you will come here. And I know Ray will come here too and say, okay, we got to do this, because it's important that the board gets a clear document to approve and not ask a lot of questions, or even ask questions but before or after the budget hearings. And is an indication of the final product of approving it on Monday, subject to today. But we did it. Now we can start fiscal year 2017 on July 1st proud that we approve a balanced budget. And now, on that note, what's the pleasure of the board?
Oh, yeah. We approved the resolution 2017-64.
And it's going to be version number 2 that was passed out to the board.
Yeah, the version number 2.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, motion by Supervisor Patello, second by Supervisor Rivas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you. We'll see you next fiscal year.